The media world is in full-blown chaos as MSNBC hosts descend into an embarrassing meltdown. Meanwhile, rumors are swirling around about a major spinoff from their parent company, Comcast. With ratings in free fall and credibility crumbling, the network seems to be grappling with the consequences of its unrelenting fixation on Donald Trump. That's right, guys. For years, MSNBC appears to be obsessed, dedicating endless hours to dissecting every single move, tweet, and rally of former President Donald Trump, or I should say President-elect Trump, often with a tone that bordered on hysteria. That's right, guys, and we've all seen it. And so now whispers of Comcast selling off their MSNBC network and CNBC, they're gaining some traction. And insiders and viewers alike are left wondering, well, could this be the network's reckoning? I mean, maybe they deserved it after all the crap that they've done, right? In fact, the situation reached a boiling point after reports surfaced that network executives were panicked. They're panicking over audiences simply just not buying it anymore. By the way, guys, I just want to thank y'all so much for always hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. You guys totally do help out the channel. We're getting the truth out here, guys, whether they want us to or not. And it's already happening as we speak, guys. In fact, the very much outspoken critic of President Trump, Rachel Maddow, is said to be taking a giant pay cut. In fact, their attempt to reverse course, culminating in a bizarre outreach to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, it only added fuel to the fire. Now, some people are saying, really? I mean, we did hear about Joe and, Mika Brzezinski going to see Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago last week. But after 8 years, guys, comparing Trump to the worst villains in history, now MSNBC is seemingly trying to cozy up to Trump as of last week, leaving even when their loyal viewers are scratching their heads wondering what's really going on. So the whole awkward reconciliation efforts, it fell flat. And instead of salvaging their reputation, they've only deepened the damage. Meanwhile, industry disruptors like Elon Musk, they're watching the debacle unfold with bemused detachment as traditional media's grip on this whole public narrative continues to erode. People are getting smarter, guys. People are hitting platforms like X, formerly known as Twitter, to get a second opinion of what the mainstream liberal media wants to shove down our throats. And so the hosts on the network are reportedly yelling behind the scenes, worried that they could soon be fired, with one insider admitting that we're all just waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's right, guys. For the network that once prided itself on being a liberal bastion, the sight of anchors nearly crying on air as they try to explain their way away, their sagging ratings is almost too much to bear. And I don't feel bad for them. So as this ship, this Titanic, continues to sink, the drama surrounding MSNBC, it serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of overplaying your hand. You know what I mean? After years of casting Trump as the villain in their narrative, it seems as if they've run out of steam and the public has finally stopped tuning in. And I ain't watching their crap anymore. Anyway, whether Comcast actually goes through with the spinoff or simply pulls the other plug, well, one thing is for sure, the days of MSNBC dominating the conversation, those days are over, guys.
So Comcast is reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic and talking about offloading some of its assets like CNBC and mainly MSNBC.
Comcast, which owns our parent company, NBC Universal, plans to spin off its cable TV networks. That's according to the Wall Street Journal and people familiar with the situation.
I will say really quickly on this, Drudge at the top said, like news meltdown, all this other stuff. I mean, I could be completely wrong. We could all be fired a year from now. But whenever this happens, you never know what's going to happen.
Or tomorrow.
We can have a moment of truth here, folks. We all know what caused this. They spent the last 8 years covering Trump like an obsessed ex-girlfriend. Any time of the day that you throw on MSNBC, someone is venting to you about Donald Trump. But then to make matters worse, they all tried getting back together with Donald last week. They showed up at Mar-a-Lago and were like, hey, Donald, sorry we called you Hitler for 8 years, but let's do lunch. And the point is, people weren't buying it which is why Comcast wants to start selling it.
Do you believe in karmic retribution? I mean, we're not going to get too much into that, but I guess we can say that you reap what you sow, right? And MSNBC is getting exactly what they've been dishing out for almost a decade now. And the best part is that Trump's not even doing anything to them at all. He hasn't said a word, and MSNBC's top stars came crying to Mar-a-Lago asking and begging for forgiveness because they could front all they want. They can say that they're going to open up communications with President-elect, but what they've done is that they've shown us that they're full of it. They know that they've been lying to us for years. And as you guys heard, they're expecting to get fired ASAP. Now, who would have thought that them contributing to the hate against Trump would lead to this, right? And it's not just hate that they've spread. They've also reinforced the notion that political figures can be subjected to violence. Now, why is Comcast doing a massive spinoff of its cable properties? Well, simple enough, guys. They want out. The cable business is on its way down and the panic is just starting to settle in. I mean, you could see it with how these hosts are trying to sugarcoat this spinoff as much as possible. Check this out.
How do you think this changes the landscape and what kinds of transactions, all of a sudden everybody's talking about M&A, do you think get born out of this?
Yeah, Andrew, I think that's really the key piece here. One of my sources very close to the situation said, this isn't the end, this is the beginning, indicating here that in spinning off these cable networks, what Comcast is doing with this new co or this spin co is they're putting it in a situation where it could make meaningful acquisitions of other channels. I'm told by sources that we should expect there to be a lot of conversations about Warner Brothers Discovery, maybe looking to sell off some of its assets, the idea that some of those channels would fit well with this SpinCo. And then after that, maybe look at Stars, which is separating out from Lionsgate. That could be paired in here, AMC networks as well. So there are plenty of different cable networks that could be combined here. We could even see Paramount.
Now, while it sounds as if things are going to be okay, it's just not true. And this was attested by Bill O'Reilly, who gave it to Chris Cuomo straight. MSNBC and all these other shows who spoke against Trump, they're all in danger. Not because Trump's doing anything, but because viewers are smarter now. They actually have access to independent journalists who don't cut clips as to remove the context of whatever's being said. It's also why legacy media is annoyed with X and Elon Musk, as it's opened a whole new avenue for people to get factual information. But let's just hear what Bill O'Reilly had to say about all these so-called spin-offs.
Comcast said, you two, we're going to have to try to mend some cliche fences, and you two are going to go in there and you're going to try to tamp it down. Because Comcast knew the next day they were going to announce that MSNBC is vapor. That is a huge meteor story.
Why is
Enormous.
it vapor? Just because they're
There
spinning
is
it
no
off
more.
and putting them in the... They're spinning off a bunch
There's
of
no
brands.
spin-off.
There is. It's a
No,
spin-off company.
There's no spin-off. See, you buy the propaganda, Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean about
I'm just
smart
saying
people?
what's being reported.
All right.
But what do you know?
Yeah, I know, but why would you believe what's being reported? You want the real story? Here
Yes,
it comes.
please.
So they're uncoupling their word, Comcast, MSNBC from NBC News. That means MSNBC has no resources at all. None. They're not going to be able to pay these people millions of dollars, Rachel Maddow, whatever she's making. NBC News is saying, we don't want you around. Why? Because NBC News' numbers, Lester Holt and the Today Show, are catastrophe because half the country equates NBC News with MSNBC and they won't watch. So NBC is desperately trying to save the mothership of information, and they have to throw MSNBC overboard.
Now remember that MSNBC has a very hateful rhetoric against Trump and other Republicans and conservatives. And it's as if they were pushing the boundaries as to how much propaganda the American people were willing to listen to. Well, they effed around and found out, didn't they? Not everybody enjoys watching hate on our TVs 24/7. Some of us actually just want to get the facts. We want to listen to the facts. Now, speaking of which, the meeting that Morning Joe and Mika Brzezinski had with the president-elect is now, it's causing the inevitable.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications.
Just an hour after the two admitted to meeting with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago, viewers suddenly switched channels. Between 7 and 8 a.m. Eastern Time, viewers of Morning Joe dipped by 17%, from 839,000 to 694,000, which probably is not going to be helped by the spin-off plan, as they're going to have to fend for themselves in the future. And it's why a lot of staffers and even top personalities within MSNBC, they're worried, they're scared, because they have to be profitable in order to maintain their shows. They got bills to pay. And if not, it's possible that the pay cuts are done on their shows or they're made obsolete altogether. And it's already happening as we speak, guys. In fact, the very much outspoken critic of President Trump, Rachel Maddow, is said to be taking a giant pay cut. Rachel Maddow renegotiated for a $25 million salary for the next 5 years, allegedly losing out on roughly $5 million, despite being called ratings Viagra for those within the network. Now, the problem, though, is that she built her brand off of hating Trump. But with liberals tuning out and conservatives watching something else, it's going to be a tough challenge to see if she can kind of keep things up as they are. Now, we have to remember that at the end of the day, this is a business, guys. It's all about profits, bottom lines, and balance sheets. And if they can't pull their weight, well, then changes will have to be made. That could be in the form of new shows, new hosts, new themes, the works. Now, one thing is for certain, they can't continue with this formula that they have at the moment. Breaking news, guys. Trump just announced that he's replacing Matt Gaetz, and his new pick for Attorney General is making MSNBC lose their freaking minds. Watch.
Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear, because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
That was college professor and MSNBC contributor Jason Johnson talking about how huge of a threat Bondi is. Yeah, a threat to their Democratic interests, probably. You guys want to bet how long before they try and throw some dirt on the new AG, Pam Bondi? What do you guys think? How long before they accuse her of something like, I don't know, sexual assault or something like that? I mean, that's their playbook, right? And like Johnson admitted, Bondi is such a competent pick for the AG role, and even more on the Republican side are praising the Trump decision. But here's what they're saying. Check this out.
President-elect Donald Trump picking a new Attorney General nominee just hours after Matt Gaetz's decision to withdraw. Fox News Digital's political correspondent Brooke Singman live now with the very latest. Brooke, good morning.
Good morning, Maria. That's right. So President Trump appointing Pam Bondi to serve as Attorney General. Bondi served as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019, and she was the state's first female Attorney General. Before that, she served 18 years as a prosecutor. Now, as Florida AG, Bondi led efforts to combat opioid abuse and end human trafficking. She also helped recover more than $1 billion in consumer protection, antitrust, and false claims matters. Bondi is a longtime Trump ally, and the president says she will, quote, refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. She is smart and tough and is an America First fighter who will do a terrific job as Attorney General. Now, this nomination comes just hours after Trump's first pick, Congressman Matt Gaetz, dropped out of the running. This after Trump reportedly told him he did not have the votes to get confirmed. Gaetz congratulating Bondi, saying, quote, Pam and I worked closely together when she was Florida's AG, and I chaired criminal justice in the State House. She is a proven litigator and an inspiring leader and champion for all.
Honestly, guys, at this point, I'm thinking maybe Matt Gaetz was the bait Trump needed to fully unmask the rhinos in his party, the Republicans in name only. But yeah, now that Gaetz has let go, Scott Jennings is all praises for Trump's new AG pick, even calling Bondi a massive upgrade over Matt Gaetz. Watch.
Is this just a confirmation that would essentially sail through Scott or not? Well, I don't think you could consider anybody, just they're going to sail without any kind of real process. She's going to have to go through a process like everybody else. But I can tell you, this is a massive upgrade. I've talked to a couple people up on the Hill already. There's a sigh of relief that now we have somebody here, two-term AG, strong record on drug enforcement and opioid issues, a total hawk on immigration, politically supportive of Trump, obviously. I don't know a Republican in the country who doesn't love Pam Bondi. So you were starting with Gates, a nominee who was underwater significantly to start and was going to always be hard to get to the surface. With Bondi, I do think you're starting above water, and as long as she performs in her hearings, and look, this is somebody who's been through 2 elections in a really big state, and so a lot of public vetting of her has gone on already. So I think this is a great move by Trump to be pragmatic and tell Gates to get out, and a really good move to go with Bondi. This is not a shaky limb. This is a sturdy branch he's going with for AG here.
And I looked her up myself, guys. You should definitely see Pam Bondi in action. Watch.
These criminals made one very big mistake. They wound up in Polk County. And I'll tell you, it's bad enough in one thing to profit from poisoning others, but it's another when you bring drugs from Mexico into our country, California, Texas, Georgia, and end up in our state and do it with impunity. Because when you're in this country illegally and you're doing things illegally, I want to tell you, and you wind up in Polk County, Grady Judd is going to find you, the DEA is going to help them, and my statewide prosecutors are going to lock you up for as long as we can.
And we're going to enjoy it.
And each of these defendants are looking at 30 years in Florida State Prison for conspiracy to traffic drugs.
Chief Justice. Senators. Senators, you heard our answer regarding that yesterday, but it is very interesting that he said he never spoke to his son about overseas dealings. His son said different things. Joe Biden was the point man for Ukraine, investigating, at the time, Ukrainians were a corrupt company, Burisma, and Zlochevsky, its owner, an oligarch who, by all media accounts we've discussed, was extremely corrupt. Hunter Biden is paid $83,000 a month to sit on that board with no experience in energy, no experience in the Ukraine, doesn't speak the language, and we clearly know that he had a very fancy job description, and he did none of those things. He attended 1 or 2 board meetings, one in Monaco, and then he went on a fishing trip with Joe Biden's family in Norway. The entire time, Joe Biden knows Hunter Biden stays on that board for 3 years. 3 years. Then we hear the video of Joe Biden bragging about firing the prosecutor, linking it to aid.
Now, guys, I covered how Morning Joe has kissed the ring and essentially let everyone know that they're not going to go against Trump for the next 4 years. Now, I urge you guys to check out this previous video where even their own colleagues are calling them out for surrendering their beliefs. As always, thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing. Check this video out here next, or our playlist or clips down here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.